According to ABC News on July 10, 2018, after the launch of O-Bike in Melbourne, Ofo has also announced that it will leave Australia. The company statement announced that it will reduce operations in Adelaide and Sydney by September 2018 and will begin to remove bicycles from the streets.
I think that's sad to see that because business have to have the return or the profit in order to continue. But from what I can see, the companies may lose a lot of money in Australia because the people, the number of people using the bike is too low to be financially viable for the company. So it's common to pay more in the early stage, get the business up running, but for shared bike in Australia, especially in Sydney region, seems a bit is too bad. Mm-hmm. So that's probably explain why some companies terminated the trial.
As the urban population has increased quickly, corresponding social problems have arisen, such as environmental pollution, energy shortages, and traffic congestion. These issues have become a central public concern that require global commitment to resolve. To combat these issues, the sharing economy has become more prevalent in some societies as the social status quo has become refined by these concerns.
Bicycle sharing is a great idea. So for people who had to walk for 10 to 15 minutes, okay, from one location to another location, bicycles certainly will provide a very convenient way, okay, for people to travel from for a short distance. For example, okay, we had to walk from between 10 to 15 minutes, I think, from Central Station to where we work. And without shared bicycles, we had to spend 15 minutes. But with the shared bicycles, probably that may take only 2 or 3 minutes.
The sharing economy is a general term that encapsulates the practice of exchanging or leasing of a product or service that is then used amongst a community. The temporary ownership or exchange is mediated through a digital platform. The Internet of Things is one of the main information technologies contributing significantly to decision makers, enabling them to construct a smart city with accurate information and data.
Internet of Things is playing a very important role in our everyday life nowadays. Really, Internet of Things is standing for connecting basically everything into the internet. For example, the shared bikes are a very, very important example of Internet of Things, because without Internet of Things, it's almost impossible for us to find the bikes. And also, Internet of Things also is going to tell us more about the states of the bikes, and in the future, it's going to be the technology to solve lots of the big problems in our society.
Since July 2016, the sharing economy of the intelligent transportation system has seen rapid growth in China, and it is changing the travelling habits of citizens. According to Gamble et al., the average annual usage of public bicycles has increased by 37% since 2009 worldwide. The number of cumulative e-bikes increased significantly to 1 million units from 2002 to 2014. This growth reflects the amount of cumulative bike-sharing exchanges, which augmented at a faster rate than the increase of the number of e-bike units.
Certainly, IT technology can do a lot of work, okay, to improve the shared bicycle in Sydney. And actually, in China, shared bicycle has become very popular, and shared bicycle just started, I think, so not long in Sydney.
Bike sharing launched in Sydney in July 2017. The Sydney and Melbourne systems of bike sharing was imported from Asia. However, after 1 year of implementation, the bike sharing system did not gain popularity amongst the city dwellers. Despite operating the system for a year, it did not become a mainstream method for transport like in some Asian countries. It has become apparent that the sharing of bicycles and the social environment of Sydney cannot coalesce, and the consequences of this are becoming more prominent as well.
It's not easy. So I'm a student at Sydney Uni. I saw a lot of shared bike or bike sharing in Sydney University. So, but outside the school, outside the campus, I can't really see it. So I think that's the third problem, that we can't use it as a very convenient transportation.
There are a few, not so many. Yeah, not as many as, for example, in like Redfern or around this area here. Yeah.
Sylvie Li is a Chinese international student who was an avid user of bike sharing in China. After starting her studies at the University of Sydney, she found that bike sharing has spread across the streets of Sydney, but not in a profound way which will engage untapped users. She witnessed quite a few lonely, unused bike sharing bikes. Sometimes she wanted to ride from her home to the train station instead of walking, but for various reasons, she gave up this idea.
Actually, if it's in the city, I don't think it will help a lot because, as you can see, this bike is not that easy to use. There's have some complicated process to start using it, and also in Sydney, they don't have the bike way for the bike riding. So I think in the city or like for the whole city, it will be so helpful for the convenience. But if in our campus, it is quite helpful for us because sometimes we have like different classes in different campus, and the distance is quite far for us by walking, and the time duration is quite short, and the time usually is not enough for us to transfer to another class.
As Sylvie mentioned, she experienced problems downloading the software or during the payment. However, experts explain that this is not a technical issue, but the company module could not match exactly.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is not really a technical challenge. I think it is more about like the business model in between the different companies. So yeah, for me, technology is there already. For like issues like this, it is based on my understanding, it's really easy to be solved.
The first problem. Users think it is expensive. The bike sharing fees in Sydney are not uniform and different companies have different pricing. Airbike costs $1.30 for every 30 minutes. O-Bike requires a deposit of $69 and costs $1.99 for every 30 minutes. OFO costs $1 for every 30 minutes with a maximum daily charge of $5. ReadyGo requires a $99 membership fee and then $1.99 per 30 minutes. These inconsistent prices and innumerable company choices are not convenient or worthwhile for many people.
When I was in China, we often ride a shared bike in campus and also in the city. So it's quite cheap and convenient. For example, if it's in Shanghai, you don't have to pay for it. But I do know in Sydney you have to pay for it. Actually, it's not quite cheap because the O-Bike is $1.99 per 30 minutes, and the OFO I think is like $1 per 30 minutes. And for example, if you when I go to the campus from the Outer Mall to the Central Station, although it's not 30 minutes, but it will also cost you like $1 to $2. So it's not really cheap. And you can see there's a lot of snow in Sydney, so it's not as easier as what you think. To ride a bike is quite hard, and yeah, and I think if you take the bus, you will get a student concession.
Second problem, the number of users is small and cannot be popularized. Although Sydney's population density is getting closer to Beijing, the number of bike sharing is far less than that of Beijing. According to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, on June 30, 2016, Sydney had a population of more than 5 million living on 12,367.7 square kilometres. Sydney's population density reaches 20,000 people per square kilometre, while Beijing's population density is 23,000. However, because of cultural differences, their bike-sharing usages contrast enormously. Chinese office workers consider bicycles as a means of transportation. but Australians are more willing to use it as a fitness tool. The 4 bicycle sharing companies stationed in Australia have invested a total of 5,850 bicycles in 3 cities: Sydney, Melbourne and Adelaide. According to Xinhua Net's report, Beijing shared 1.91 million bicycles. By contrast, Sydney's bike sharing are not as conveniently accessible to their users, causing the decline in usage.
The car owner is car ownership. In Australia, every 1,000 people have 740 cars. They own the car. This is a very high ranking in the world. I think it is in 7th in the world. But in China, this is the sharing bike came from. They only have 1,000 people, only have 154. It's quite a different story. Australia's car ownership is 5 times greater than Chinese people. So that's another reason. More people, they use the car as a transport. They go to work, they go to shopping. So they don't need this sharing bike.
No, by car, because it's very hilly. People ride for leisure.
So, like Sydney or like your city, do you think the ride is hard on the street?
Yes, yes. The roads are narrow and the motorists are not very tolerant of cyclists. And it is hilly, so it is good exercise.
The third problem, car traffic rules and bicycles usage are difficult to combine. As a means of transportation, the observance of traffic rules is incredibly important. An example is the legal necessity of wearing helmets, which may be another inconvenience for riders, as helmets are usually not supplied by the bike-sharing company. Furthermore, in Sydney, the number of lanes provided for bicycles is minimal, despite the increased number of bicycles on the road. Thus, motor vehicle drivers must slow down traffic to enable bicycle riders to travel safely. Some temporary riders are not familiar with riding bicycles on shared motor roads, in which case doing so will pose a threat to their safety.
We all know there's a rules that if you want to ride a bike, you have to wear the helmet in Sydney. So you can see there's a lot of shared bike in Sydney. It's no helmet. I don't know why, probably stolen or missed or something. So if the bike is without a helmet, you can't ride it. So that's the first problem. And the second problem would be, I think there's no special line for the bike, for the cycling. So it's quite dangerous. If you ride a bike in the pedestrians, it's quite dangerous to the citizen.
The fourth problem, the phenomenon of random suspension has caused confusion in the social order. The pioneering concept of bike sharing attempts to address the issue of bike station parking by allowing riders to take it from anywhere and park it in any location close to their final destination. However, this has caused a lot of trouble for riders. The current situation in Sydney is a lack of bike parking racks, especially in some narrower or older streets. The user cannot find a parking space and can only park the shared bike at random, sometimes frustrating public locations that bring trouble to the surrounding residents or pedestrians passing by.
Usually they just park at the pedestrian. And because in Sydney, the pedestrian or the street is quite narrow. So each of time when I saw some shared bike, they just park in the behind the street. I think it's quite messy and not good to the beauty of the city.
It looks like it's very convenient for tourists, but I haven't seen very many local people using them. Sometimes they're parked outside my apartment building, so I guess a few people are using them. Well, those people have parked very carefully, so that was good. But I can imagine if somebody didn't park carefully, then it could be a danger, especially if it was on the road or...
Therefore, if bike-sharing companies wish to develop their system and survive in Sydney, some technological changes should be made to address the environmental and social issues discussed. Better regulations that reflect Sydney's circumstances would also improve the concept of bike sharing. The Internet of Things economy and the sharing economy can only exist in Australian cities if the issues of inconvenience are addressed.
If we can combine technology of videos and images, so we can probably or do something, for example, so we can install a camera somewhere, or either a video camera or a static camera, and we can detect whether the bicycle, has been moved away from a location to somewhere else, or whether the bicycle has nearly been returned, into and put in the proper spot. So combined with the technology that I just mentioned before, right? So when people return the bicycle and then the reader detect, so yes, the bicycle has been returned, using the wireless reader. So detect the bicycle has been moved away, then we can probably try to get the record from the video and see whether when and where and how the bicycle was taken away.
However, if the new bike-sharing positioning system were to be implemented, new challenges will follow. Some users will worry about this bike system infringing upon their personal privacy.
Privacy is always the major concern when we talk about Internet of Things and the data-driven sort of applications. One of the key challenges for Internet of Things is really how to make sure it's sort of the privacy issue is being executed. I think there's a lot of research that could be done. At the moment, I think it's still a bit challenging. For example, a lot of people are talking about blockchain. This might be the solution to your question. Yes.
In addition to technical issues, social regulation changes and changing citizens' awareness are also important for the development of bike sharing.
Obvious, you have to set a rule. First of all, you have to change the bike itself. They must have some proper storage to put the helmet. The second thing, every local council, they have to get parking space. But this will get people less interesting to buy this ride this bike, because it's not at their home. Maybe the parking is quite longer distance with their home. We can put some particular parking place, like we drive in car. We can't put the car everywhere, but the bike sharing is the same things. You have to put in order. So that's another reason that restrict the bike sharing is development.
I think one possible solution could be, say, on demand, rather than like the rubbish throw that everywhere. If we're using kind of a big data technology to test the users' market, say who are willing to use it, what's the normal routine for them to use it. Then we can collect this kind of information and decide a few hotspots to put the bike there. Then give these kind of people a little bit incentive, because I think using them waste money for the current practice, they can give the users a little bit incentive, say free for a few months, for example, and give some other gifts, whatever. So encourage them to use it. So that gave a very positive image. Otherwise now who use it, who seems stupid?
Whether it is the survival status of bike sharing in Sydney or the future development, it may be facing huge challenges for bike sharing companies.